This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 518, recorded on December 30th, 2021. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from a winter storm watch warning, Bellevue, Nebraska. Mike, you probably got the alerts a little bit earlier today. I think we're expecting some serious weather on Saturday.
I kind of like how, I don't know if in your house, but the Amazon Alexa, I mean, I know it's been happening for a while, but how whenever those weather alerts come on, they all kind of ding in the house. I do kind of like that. It's been kind of nice to keep up on that sort of stuff because I'm kind of that type. I don't watch the news ever. I could probably tell you the last time actually I turned on channel, one of the local news stations was during the big tornadoes we had a few weeks ago. But besides that, we never turn it on. So it's kind of nice to get those little alerts. And
did you get that emergency alert that Tuesday at 11 p.m.?
Yes.
It happened in Nebraska. All of Nebraska's emergency, someone programmed it. I think it was supposed to go off at 11 a.m.
It was supposed to be just for their broadcast channel testing. So they alternate between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m. And they were, this is the beep, 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 and they're testing the alert system, right? Yeah. They were meant to just test the cable broadcast, so it would only work on your TV. Well, someone accidentally checked both boxes of broadcast and cell phones. So everyone's iPhones at 11 p.m.
Android, everything. My
Android
Windows phone went off.
Really?
Like everything went off.
And so Nebraska Twitter was blowing up with everyone being like, why? Like that just scared the crud out of us, waking us up to all of our phones going off. Because usually that's an Amber Alert too. That's really the only reason the phone one ever is alerted.
It was loud.
It was really loud.
I was, then I'm like, well, my watch went off, my phone went off, my Android device went off, my Windows phone went off. Like, it just all went off. And I was like, what is going on? It was late. I thought, everybody upstairs phones were going off. So thank you, emergency alert system, for getting that done. Of course, we'll post the show with some world-class show notes. Probably not a lot this week, but out at theaverageguy.tv. Don't forget, we're premiering now these on Saturdays. So if you want to join me Saturday at noon over at the YouTube channel, head over to I should make an Average Guy link to this, but I haven't done it yet. Well, I'll do it after the show. Head over to theaverageguy.tv/YouTube, and that'll be the channel that we do that on. Mike, just remind me to do that. And join us on Saturdays. It's a ton of fun. Actually, we get about just as many live there, and we get a chance to chat. And you don't have to, if you came here live, you can just chat with us in there. Noon Central over on my YouTube channel. I think it's youtube.com/Jim Collison if you want to find it that way, or theaverageguy.tv/YouTube. And it's a ton of fun. So join us on Saturdays. I think that's something in 2022, Mike, I am going to commit to. Marv B joined us last. Mike was off 2 weeks ago, and Marv from Podnuts Pro, and I was on he did a year-end show that I was on a couple weeks later. Marv, thanks for joining us. We'll definitely have him back. He's kind of he's taken that Podnuts Pro, which if I asked you what's a Podnuts, like what is that? Nobody knows. So he's just changing the show name, I think, to shoot, I had it in my brains, but it's very, very logical. It's like support guys,
okay.
Networking support guys. That's not what it's called, but it's like that. You kind of know what it is. So he'll be I wonder if that's a secret. Okay.
Good thing you didn't remember the name.
Exactly.
So you're good.
Marv, if it's a secret, I'm sorry. I couldn't remember the name. I'm sorry about that as well. And Home Gadget Geeks, I'm putting you under a cone of silence now. You can't say anything unless you can say something. Anyways, Marv, thanks for coming on last week. Always appreciate that. Mike, you couldn't join us. I'll start this right off the bat.
This was 2 weeks ago, right?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Last week we're off for Christmas. Marv and I talked about kind of these bad tech gifts that your family tries to give you for Christmas or your birthday. I didn't prep you for this, but thinking about right off the top of your head, you don't need to say who, but have you ever gotten that really bad, like Christmas tech gift?
Well, It's funny. I wouldn't call it bad, but I still get CDs, like physical CDs. I'm like, oh, you're gonna love this album. I'm like
music?
yes,
Really?
yes. And I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, number one, I could only play this in my car, and number two, I'm just gonna put it on Spotify. Like, I'll just add it. I can just, I already have it right now, and I almost feel bad, like they wasted their money, or something like that. So yeah, just see CDs with music. Yep.
CDs. Yeah, I haven't bought a CD in a while. It's been a couple
I
of
didn't.
years.
I had to ask this family member, like, where do you even buy CDs anymore?
Target, apparently. I
Yeah.
think Target
Yeah.
still has a section.
Yep.
Walmart,
Yeah, that's exactly where it
still,
was. Yeah.
still might as well. Any tech show up? Santa bring anything that of any interest, or was it a non-tech Christmas?
Well, so our whole family got influenza on Christmas Eve. So we have had to delay everything. So we actually, today was kind of the first day we were all better. So we are doing all of our Christmas stuff this weekend. My wife and I, we did do a little thing Christmas morning with our family. Kind of tech, kind of not. Hannah got me one of those really cool Theraguns, the massaging ones you can use to, clean up your muscles after a workout, things like that. And that thing is really, really cool. The tech angle to that is it's surprising. Those things are now coming with USB-C ports as their charging ports. So I can't get a USB-C port on my iPhone, but I can get one on a Theragun massager, which kind of drives me nuts. So I don't know why that is. But besides that, no, not yet. At least, maybe more this weekend. I don't know.
Things are still coming. The kids, I got Sarah bought me a wine rack, which was kind of I've kind of wanted a downstairs wine rack to kind of just build up so we've got some reds down here.
Yeah.
Last year I bought the wine fridge for her. And that started that actually started this whole kind of crazy renovation phase that I've gone through, because can't just put the fridge in. Then I was like, if we put some cabinets around this fridge, that'd be pretty cool. And so we did that. And then I was like, it'd be nice to have a wine rack downstairs so that I could just put we could, stock up some reds. So that's what she got me. The kids got me this really cool V cutter for cigars, which is John got me
a tactical cutter. I think, yeah,
kind of cool. I've been wanting one of these deep V's. You got to be careful. This thing is sharp.
Yeah,
this thing is.
Could be part of the mafia now or something.
So that was pretty cool. I also asked for, and it's amazing I don't know how I survived this long. One of those it goes on your propane tank for your barbecue that tells you how full right. I've never really had one of those. It's just you're in the middle of smoking a turkey and you run out of gas. And you're like, hey, jackass! Like, couldn't you just have a fuel gauge on there? So
right.
Sarah got me a fuel gauge for the grill, which I think is helpful. I always thought there'd be a better digital solution for that. It's just straight up analog.
I've been surprised on because I had that same thing on my old grill. My new grill has the thing it hangs on is like a scale. And so as it gets it goes up and down. So it tells you as it's moving up and down kind of where you're at, which I thought was I thought that thing would actually fail after a while. It hasn't failed yet. I thought it would kind of get stuck and not move as well. Still a perfect gauge. And I'm like, that's kind of smart to have it built in. But yeah, I think you're right on those analog. Sometimes it's just easier, doesn't break as much, and might be better.
Yeah, we'll see. It's out there. I mean, it's the tank. It already told me I'm getting close to it being low, which is probably true. I kind of just jostle them. You can kind of tell how much is still left in there,
and things being left out in the cold with batteries in them just suck, right? So it's probably the better part about that. I know every time I've left my two-way thermometer for the smoker out there, it's just dead because that batteries hate being out in the cold.
No, they do. It's a good reminder. Like, if you got things in your car that have batteries and you live north, don't leave them out there.
Yeah.
I mean, it will kill a laptop battery in a second. I just replaced the main battery in what's now Sammy's car, the Civic hybrid. And that's, I started thinking it's 5 years old, 6 years old. And it was like, okay, it's time. But, they always fail in the winter. It's that they make it each winter. They're like, oh, I lived through the winter. Right. And they make it all summer. And then that very first cold snap and they're out. So I got that, went to Napa and got that replaced. Well, We have a second Christmas as well coming up. One of my kids was in Colorado, so they're coming over. Hopefully they're coming on Saturday. We've got this thing planned for the heart of the storm, so we'll kind of have to see how that goes. But they're coming over. I think Marv and I kind of came to the conclusion, Mike, just let us buy the tech gear
Yeah.
and just get us other things like that. Don't now. I love buying tech for my family. If they ask, this is, by the way, there's no secret here. If anybody in the family asks for anything tech related, I will buy it for them. Like,
Hmm.
it's just one of those like, oh yeah, okay, I'll buy it for sure. Sarah knows for sure. Like, she could get anything. She'd just be like, hey, I really need a new laptop. There it is. Like, where did that come from? Type deal, right?
Well,
So
and for me too, it's like it's almost like we get them the practical, like like the underwear and socks is like the practical gift that everyone needs, but you don't get too excited about it. I'm kind of the same way. Like for my in-laws, I want to get them like a wireless access point to make their Wi-Fi a lot better, and they're gonna open it and be like, "Oh, yippee!" But then their Wi-Fi, they're gonna love having great Wi-Fi, right? I'm just like, I get you the practical things that you really need. That you're not gonna spend the money on, right?
yeah, yeah. And I kind of Joe had mentioned that his wife's family got him beer. A good bottle
There
of
you go.
bourbon. A good. I was last non-tech story, and then we'll move into some tech stuff here. But my neighbor's tree, that windstorm we had a couple weeks ago, took out
Yeah.
half of my neighbor's tree, so they've been cutting it up and stuff. I went up the other day. I just wanted the wood, and so I was like, "Hey, can I haul some of this away for you?" Like, that'd be great, right? That's work they didn't have to do. So we loaded stuff up and took it down to the house. So he started talking to me, and he's pinging me, and I mentioned I smoke cigars and I loved bourbon. And so about 2 hours later, a knock on the door, and there he was. He was like, "Hey, thanks for helping us clean up." And I was like, "Oh, you didn't have to do this." And he's like, "No, I appreciate it. You didn't have to come down and help us either." And it was a Four Roses bourbon, which is pretty good for old fashions. That's a good old fashioned maker,
Nice.
and two cigars. And I was like, "Oh," I said, "Well, I got two. You'll have to come down and you'll have to come down and burn one with me." So, kind of, and I felt bad because he's probably been up there 8 years, and I've never. Yeah, it's five doors up.
Right.
I never walked up there and knocked on the door and introduced myself. So I had to do a better job in the neighborhood about getting out there. So um, Sarah says she's really, and she's really good at buying tools. She loves she loves tools. She does love, and she loves me, and I'm a tool. So that just goes that kind of goes hand in hand. Mike, as we look at 2022 and kind
Hmm.
of thinking about, I've been doing a lot of home projects. I'm thinking, I was thinking about some things. I'll prime the pump a little bit here of like what additional tech do I want to put in it? Initially, I thought I'd wire the shed and put some cameras out there, and then I kind of was like, yeah, it's probably more than I want to. I did some work so that I can easily plug the shed into the deck.
Yeah.
It's got an outlet that comes out now. You just plug it in, right? I cleaned it all up, so there's some room in there, and got some ventilation going in there. So that's working for me. So maybe not as much tech as I thought, but I still have. It kind of bothers me that I've got three ring cameras, and so when I show them on the web, there's two and one. Like there's a square. Like
You need
kind of
to
what
fill the
that's
square.
kind of what that square for.
Yep.
kind of need. I just kind of need it for completeness. So I'm kind of waiting, kind of thinking through, kind of waiting for that. So I got my eyes kind of on a ring cam. I need to replace I'm replacing the basement windows here this year. And we have concrete uh little footers in there that they poured just for the windows. That's the way they did them. And I got to bust those out. So I'll be picking up, I'm going to go down to Harbor Freight and pick up one of their not the most expensive thing, not the cheapest thing either, but I can hear Sarah laughing. she's she's about 20 seconds behind. That's super funny. Um, but I need a hammer. I need a power hammer
Oh yeah,
drill
yeah.
thing that I can do to kind of chip that stuff out. Anything as you're looking at 2022 tech wise, anything you're looking at adding?
Yeah, well, there's kind of two categories for me. The first one is one we've talked about a lot, and that's going to be the truck. And
Oh yeah.
hopefully I get on because they did come out with the news that January. I think we talked about this last time. I got the email that January is when they're going to open orders, but they don't. They said a lot of you aren't going to get them. Right? It's going to be the next few years. So that would be a big piece of tech, and kind of getting to know that really well. Getting to know. I think we know a lot about Tesla and the electronics in there, and all the different tech angles. I think, with Ford, yeah, we've had the Mustang Mach-E, but this is really the next big all electric for them. So diving into that. Outside of the truck, for me, I really want to focus on AV in the house this year. And for me, I think I've told you guys, I guess I can't say this anymore. I used to be able to say I don't have a single 4K TV in the house. And I guess that's still true. In the house, I don't have any 4K TV. The TV, when our one went out on the patio, I did replace that, and all you can buy really at that size is 4K. So it's a really cheap 4K one out on the patio that doesn't get used as often. But I really want a nice place. Hannah is such a movie person, and we watch so many movies. I would love a good place to sit with awesome audio, the true surround sound setup. So I'm thinking we're finishing our basement. Whenever they can put in the window, they're going to start finishing the basement. And I think I'm going to take the opportunity to the living area in the basement to put a really nice, like, kind of system down there, right? Really comfy seating, and at least some sort of, and the good part about the basement, the way it is now, I can put wires up in the top for the surround sound. So I get in that. So that meaning that won't be a super expensive, because I won't need to go pure wireless or anything like that. I won't go Sonos, just because since I already have the ability to wire it in while I'm here, I'll probably just run some speakers and do it. But I really do want a really nice, decent set of speakers, a 4K TV with HDR. That's just something we have not experienced yet. Around our house, we're still all 1080p, non-HDR TVs. And I think every time I go over to someone's house who has a really good setup and they turn it on and the sound, I'm like, oh, this is like so immersive. You can actually hear the audio, like the vocals, right? Because a lot of times when you have a sound bar, those channels get muffled and it's really loud in the action scenes, and then you can't hear the verbal communication. So I think that's going to be a fun focus for next year. And I haven't even started Googling yet, because I don't want to until the basement starts getting closer, because I know I'll start wanting to get stuff ordered. But yeah, so if people have suggestions, I'm like, oh man, hey, if you actually can run wired speakers, I know nothing about speakers, receivers. I know how they hook up. I've hooked up a bunch, but as far as like good brands, bang for your buck, right? That's kind of what I'm looking for.
Be a nice project.
Look at that. John Biggs already offered.
There you go. Nice project. I was thinking, I need to up my game a little bit on the treadmill. I set it up. I have a nice TV stand where I've got a touch screen on it and a computer, but the pole that's holding on the TV, the stand, is sitting on top of a cardboard box. Like, I was walking by it the other day. I'm like, how jankety is that? Like, that's just the worst. I mean, I could probably do something a little bit better because it wasn't just like I bought it and it was just not tall enough, and I wanted a little bit taller. So I just put it on top of a cardboard box.
I think, though, I don't see anything wrong with that. You and I are such function over form guys, right? Like, even my setup down here, it's not pretty, but man, it's just the most functional setup for me. For things I'm constantly need to unplug and replug, you for your hard drive mining and all of it's like our setups are just very functional. Yeah. And the same way with our TV up in the living room, right? Like, the way it's set up doesn't even really look the best, but very, very functional. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Brian says he's thinking of a few projects, some non-tech related, replacing my office desk, getting my shower redone. We have a bathroom that desperately needs to be done. That's those kinds of, you're right, Mike. But we are both very functional. It doesn't need to look, for me, the function's more important than the form. And it doesn't have to look excellent for it to be cool for me. Like, if it's function, I just rewired I brought an inlet in from the outside so I can run the generator now in pretty quickly convert the house over. I didn't want to mess with a cutover switch and wiring into the house. My generator's not big enough to really do that anyways. So I brought that in, and that was a really fun project to like, I saw some folks that were selling these. I'm like, you know what? I can build this. And so I spent some time cutting cable and cutting wires and, bringing that in and price. It was fun. It was a fun project. Does it look the sexiest? No, it looks super functional. Like, right. That's kind of the way, I like it. So, Sarah says, maybe a hanging oscillating fan. We we down here in the basement have sometimes trouble with the air movement. There's a dead spot
Oh,
down
right.
in the, and so we've got the floor ones that we do, but maybe that's a hint to me.
I think that's definitely a hit.
Well, she's doing it so she doesn't knock it over. That's
Well,
anything else?
that's
Go
the
ahead.
hanging thing is kind of like the reason and we've talked about this on the show. I'm not excited to finish the basement only for one reason, and that's I lose having the totally open ceiling that I can mount stuff to. Like these two lights that I have right now are just mounted to the ceiling with just like screws into the wood up top. And as soon as this is all finished, all that
Yeah.
functionality, goes away. And
I
I'm
know.
gonna really
Kind of
miss
locks
that.
you in too.
Yeah,
I don't know if I want to be locked in. I think
I know.
like I want to be, I like to live in a world where everything is movable. Like you can,
Yeah.
even if it doesn't look the best, I like it. Well, one, I need to see it. As soon as something goes in a drawer, it is lost. Like I don't even think I have it anymore. Like I open drawers, so I'm like, oh, that's where that went today. Sammy and I were redoing her door. We were staining. I put a new door in like 2,000 years ago, and we are just finally getting to staining it. And I pulled the box out that had the stain and the brushes in it. Well, in it was also a drill bit I'd been looking for, my box knife that I'd been looking for, a screwdriver that I'd been looking for, right? Because they were put away. I mean, I couldn't see them
Mm-hmm.
anymore, right? So
Yeah.
it was
You guys
Alex
saw
is
that pegboard that used to be behind me on my workbench with
yeah,
everything hanging. I still have that. It's just on the other end of the basement. I love having all those tools right there, or else I forget I have them. And then
right.
it's
I
nice to be
know
able to
I need
see
them out.
everything.
I need them
Yep.
out front. I need them out
Same.
front. Alex says run all those wires while the walls are open, and that's
Yeah.
super. All the walls are open down here in the basement, and I don't ever want to close them because I'm always reconfiguring things,
Right.
And so Joe says he just ordered his first 3D printer. Mike,
Oh,
are you still like, I don't have one.
I don't.
Are you, I'm always so torn with those because they're so cool. And it'd be the biggest dust collecting thing. Like, I don't know.
I'm waiting for some project that I would need to pique my interest enough that it sticks with. Like, and you guys know me, I'm so ADHD with these hobbies. 3D printing for some reason I haven't had the urge long enough to actually pull the trigger on it, but I go in these waves where I really want to grab one. And it's usually something where I need a little part that I'm doing for something. I'm like, man, I could just print that and that would be amazing. Yeah, I want to get into it. It's one of those I'm trying to avoid it because I know it's a rabbit hole that I would probably go really deep down into, and really enjoy. And the only reason I'm holding off a little bit is I think my boys will really enjoy it when they get a little bit older. They're just a little too young yet. And I was figuring maybe the prices and everything by that time, my oldest is 5. I'm thinking, okay, when he's 7 or 8, he could probably have a lot of fun, start doing some more with that. And I think maybe in 2 to 3 years, prices will even get better on those.
Yeah.
Because they're still, I mean, you're dropping a pretty good chunk of change for a decent printer.
Yeah. Our library, my daughter came home the other day and she says, wow, the Bellevue library has refitted itself with all kinds of technology.
Oh,
And
really?
you can go in there and like rent time on a 3D printer. And I'm thinking that's probably the way to get
That is the way to, yeah.
started with it, right? Take some projects in. I actually I need more of a cutter. When I was doing the generator inlet, I bought a voltmeter, to register what's coming in. So it has it has a little clamp that goes around the wire, and then you can also power it from up to 240 volts, which I was surprised for this little tiny meter. It would take a 240 volt charge. So I brought 240 into it. And so it'll tell you what the current is and the load and some of those kinds of things. Super cool. But the hardest part about it is what I need is a faceplate for a 2 outlet box. I need it cut to this precision size so that the thing will snap in. It's designed to snap into it. Well, it's a little like, I'm like, do I use an oscillating tool for that? Do I get a cutter, one of those, what's the kind of
Dremel?
Dremel?
Yeah.
Do I need a Dremel kind of thing to do that? It's like, how do I cut that thing?
Yeah.
So
Well,
I get some.
you
I
get the
get some
3D
ideas.
printer, and I'll just come over and use yours.
Yeah, I need a 3D printer like I need a hole in my head. Let's just be really, Sarah says our kids are always roping their friends into printing stuff for them, and that's totally true. Um, I do. You know, Brian says like a pickup truck. Meet friends who need to, move. When you get your truck, I'm gonna have to come over and borrow it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. You'll probably need to, well, because
With
that's when
me.
you'll finally move houses. You keep saying you're going to move.
Shh, she's listening.
Oh,
How
sorry.
many times
Sorry.
have I told you? That's our secret.
That's all. Okay.
So, yeah, it's Brian says I need a plasma cutter, not for moving, but to cut the. So that Brian, that was the kind of the question I had. I do have access to a plasma cutter both at the community college and at the local library, which I didn't. I was like, wow, they got a plasma cutter. So I need to go. I need to go down with the plans and have someone show me how to. Yeah, Joe says yes, a CNC plasma. So Mike, I'm thinking for me, I'm kind of thinking, one more additional camera I want to add in, and then I kind of need to think through. I need to think through my digital assistant game, and we've always bought we got a bunch of got it free with a purchase. You buy milk and you get a free Google, right?
Yeah.
Whatever, right? We got them all over the place now, and they're confusing each other, and I swear they're talking to each other sometimes, and you're like, hey, you're not supposed to be doing that here. So I kind of need to. Aaron has been reviewing, Amazon has some of the big, they got some of the big screens out, and I'm kind of starting to wonder, is it time to up the game a little bit on the digital assistant side? Do you get that feeling like, okay, I can only have so many pucks laying around the house, or are those working for you?
Mine are working. I have 2 Googles I just need to get rid of because I'm all Amazon except that I have these 2 Google products. And to your point, they like confuse each other, and the one in the bathroom doesn't even work anymore. We had just used that one as kind of like a speaker in the bathroom, and I don't know if it's the humidity or whatever. That thing just died. It's a Google one. But no, like the pucks tend to work well, especially because it's usually my kids just yelling at them and not trying to understand 4-year-old babble. Because I put smart plugs. Each of our kids had a tiny little Christmas tree in their rooms this year, and I plugged it into a smart plug. They both have an A lady in their room, and they could. So they said, "Hey, just say turn off Emmett's tree, turn off Harrison's tree." It's my 4. Like, turn off Harrison's tree. He's yelling it, and the thing like at 1 out of 10 times, a lady got it. But so for those pucks around, they work pretty well. I kind of want to upgrade the ones that are in areas and have nice speakers because Jim, that first gen one that we got a long time ago when these first came out is still a good speaker. But those little pucks are not good speakers. No, so that's the one thing I do want to. That's why I would upgrade them, is for better music playing throughout the house.
I think I'd actually think about mounting them somewhere too, instead of them sitting on, like they sit on coffee tables or they sit on counters. I'd kind of like to get them up on the walls and get them off the counters, in some way where they're kind of up and out of the way. You don't need them. I don't need them sitting on the counter, especially the pucks.
Right.
We do have one where we have 2 show 5s. One's in the kitchen and the other, I swear to God, they're listening to me right now. One's in the kitchen, one is in the living room. They're just really separated by a wall. They get confused by each other all the time. We'll be talking to one in the kitchen. It'll, it won't do what we want it to do. So we say it louder because that makes sense. Right.
Yeah.
And so then the one in the living room will pick it up and you're like, no, not you, like, and so, yeah. We probably need to think kind of about, okay, now is the time that we kind of figure out, maybe we figure out a plan for them. So
right.
I think we're going to see some changes in them. Google has not been very innovative. I think Amazon has been. And so I think there's going to be some new, I'll watch probably around the Amazon Prime days. That's usually when you get them pretty cheap. That I was kind of thinking maybe it's time to upgrade to a more powerful Android tablet to have. I've got my current tablet I mounted it on a Manfrotto clamp so I can see it. It just kind of sits static now. It's plugged in. It's not very powerful, not very functional to use.
Mm-hmm.
but it'd be kind of nice, I think, to have a, to maybe have a tablet, an Android tablet, not because I need it, but more because I want to know what they're doing on Android,
Yeah.
right? Just to kind of keep up with it. So
Right.
that may be something else that I kind of watch for, wait for a deal on, kind of see how that goes. We did, big thanks to Ed Sullivan. I was able to pick up from him, used his let's see, MacBook Air that he'd bought the new Pro.
Yeah.
And so I was able to purchase that from him and move that down to Sammy. So she's now on a Mac.
Nice.
M1 MacBook Air. I need to really learn the name of these things. Like, I know what the Mini is, but that's it. The other ones I need.
Well, I hate. I've even lost track of all the
Yeah.
naming conventions too. I can't remember what
So-
phone I have. I guess it's the 12. Is it 13? I don't even know.
I did pay off the Mac, and it wasn't that terrible. It wasn't that expensive to start with. But I took the. Why not? Why not take the pain?
Why not take the free financing? Oh, for
So
sure.
I did that. So that's done. That was a 2021. By the way, probably best thing I did in 2021 technology wise. Like the Mac
really
fundamentally changed. Yeah. If I just think about what that did for me as far as improving the podcast, improving my workflow, getting me in the world of that I didn't really, I mean, it'd been a long time since I'd had a Mac. And then not giving in to having to have one or the other. The part of the goal in when I bought the Mac was to make it live in a world of Windows. Like, could I make it the center of the universe and still have all this Windows stuff around me?
Yeah.
And I still do. Like, it actually worked, which is kind of crazy. I have right now, I don't think about like, oh, I need to use the Mac for that, or oh, I need to use Windows for that. I think I need to use my computers. Like, what am I using? And I really don't see, I run a Cronus on Windows and on Mac. I run Bitdefender on Windows and on Mac. I do the exact same thing. So, yeah, I think if best tech for me of 2021 was, it's got to be the Mac for sure. I mean, and I know that's crazy talk, but if it just brought me, the Ryan and Bob always give me a hard time because I'm always using stuff forever and I'm always on a couple generations back. That's the first gen thing I've had of anything like that in a while. And yeah, I think it was a good buy.
Yeah.
Good. Anything, Mike, anything for you as you think about tech purchases for 2021? What's the best decision you made?
The best decision was that Unrated were finally crashing and replacing the guts. That has just been, I mean, we talked about this, just that upgrade alone and just having a stable system. I didn't realize like over the next few weeks after you do an upgrade, you realize all the issues you were having that you didn't even know you were having. Just that has been fantastic. So that upgrade, the 3060 Ti, thanks to Joe for letting me jump in on that when he got in line for that, that has been amazing. Gaming on that thing, playing Forza Horizon, just like the views of it is just like stunning. And that was kind of the first new gen graphics card I'd ever bought. So I'd always bought older graphics cards, and so being kind of on the front end of that has been really, really cool to see. So that technology has been great. But no, more overall, not tech purchases, but just shifts in tech for me. And it's stuff we've already talked about throughout the year, which was making a lot of changes to self-hosting and really deciding what made sense for me to self-host, what made sense for me to switch and go back to, the cloud. Using OneDrive, for example, has been one of those things that I just love more and more the more I use it. OneDrive has been just fantastic for Hannah and me. So moving away from Nextcloud from that, haven't felt really any pain at all. And then just finding the right things to self-host and the right things to put up in the cloud. So those technology shifts were big, like size of relief for me, took a lot off my shoulders, didn't have the stress anymore, plus gained some functionality, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was just thinking today, Acronis is offering now a terabyte of cloud storage. In
for
their
backups.
For backups,
Oh.
for their backup tool. And I don't even have a 1 terabyte OneDrive to use. I mean, I guess, well, maybe I do. Do I? No, I don't. And I was thinking, then the files that are on there, like I don't really access them that very much. It's one of those kinds of things. You're thinking,
Right.
how much do I really need to put in the cloud?
Mm-hmm.
And so that got me thinking today. I was like, oh, and then so I went and looked at my Cronus subscription, and I already have 500 gig there, and I was like, I'm not even using that. That's 500 gig. I mean, it's quite a bit of space
Yeah,
for that
sure.
kind of stuff. So maybe I got to get that. Maybe I've got to get that figured out as well as like, because this is that time of year, right? It's taxes, it's backups, it's where am I storing my stuff? Is my stuff safe and backed up?
Right.
Those kinds of pieces. This is the time of year. You kind of think through that and kind of figure out like, okay, what am I going to do? So yeah, I'm trying to think anything. Oh, I think the other thing, I think early in the year, I bought this ultra wide monitor. And that's been another, I had two 1080p monitors, which actually provide more space. But having the Mac all on one in one I don't know, it just changed things. And then for Christmas, Sarah bought me a desk mounted stand for it. So I took, because that thing had a big wide, so all of a sudden I got some desk real estate back by putting it on a clamp stand. By the way, I think that if you're gonna have multiple monitors, you gotta have kind of a plan for how you're setting up all your monitors, because they'll take up a ton of disk space. I took a big 27-inch monitor and put it in portrait mode. That was really, there were some things that I was doing, again, trying to get the right thing in the right place, not necessarily thinking whether it's Windows or Mac. I didn't really care. But I had some things that I wanted to do that were more efficient in portrait mode. So getting a monitor that's sit in portrait, kind of super helpful. Moving Home Assistant onto the Surface so that I could create big buttons on the dashboard and use that to control the switches in the house right here from the desk, get all that stuff here. Getting the right technology tool in the right place for it.
Exactly.
People come down here and they're like, holy cow. And I'm like, I use every single one of these.
Yeah.
I know I have 9, but I use every single one.
Every time I think
I've
seen it, I know. And every time I think my 4 is a lot, I remember back to your 9. Yeah, because I agree with you. The one stand is huge because I have 4 monitors on one stand, so it frees up all the underneath is still open because there's 3 on the bottom, 1 up top, and it's all just on one kind of tree that branches out. I love that. That was a big upgrade.
It's good having. I just love the real estate. Brian says he just upgraded from a i7 4770K, which is what I run the old studio PC on, with a i7 12700K with 64 gig of RAM. That's nice. That's
a huge upgrade.
That would be, well, on your Unraid box, how much memory do you have on that thing now? 32?
32 now.
Yeah.
32.
Will it support 64?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have 2
that'd
open
be
DIMMs,
my next
so
purchase.
I could easily just add in and go up to 64. And I've been monitoring that. I'm sitting at around 65% usage. So I think once I start to get to the close to the 80 mark, I'll probably switch it over, go up to, but I haven't had any need for it yet. So we'll see.
Having a Windows box, this is where I think Windows is infinitely better than Mac, is on Hyper-V in doing virtualizations. Like, it is just really drop dead. If I need, and that's, just spinning up Windows VMs is sometimes what I need to do, especially on some of the crypto things.
Right.
And so having a box, it's got 32, and I always thought that would be huge. Now I'm like, man, I wish I could. It only support up to 32. I'm like, God, I wish it would do 64. So I'm kind of starting to think about, how great, like maybe I start speccing out a system that would get me. I don't need the fastest processor in the world, but the more memory, the better. Sarah is reminding me, your car. Listen, I love my car. I love my Subaru Legacy. Every time I get it in, I'm like, God, this thing is so great. I mean, I know it's fossil fuel, yada, yada. But that thing is so great. Mike, I'm excited for you in that truck. I hope that does
I hope it
become
happens
a
this
reality
year.
for
We'll
you.
see, especially because my Jeep is literally limping along. So it just every day it reminds me like, hey, I should probably get replaced pretty soon here.
You get to that point and you're like, when is this gonna leave?
I'm
me
like, I don't even know what's
stranded?
leaking out because like my fluids under the hood are all full. So it's this coming from somewhere it shouldn't, definitely for sure. So
You feel any work pressure to replace, like when you pull in the parking lot and you see the park. Do you ever feel that kind of pressure?
no, mainly
Okay.
because the outside of my Jeep looks really nice. Like
Mm.
it still looks amazing. I've kept that thing really nice, and I car wash it all the time. Like it looks really good. Um, it's just old, but I've taken really good care of it. So like as far as like the aesthetics of it and the pressures there, no, like I don't feel any. I do feel awkward when I have to drive a client around because it's just older car on the inside, and
Yeah.
it just comes that old car stuff and
Yeah.
the whole like, hey, when you close the door, tap 3 times on the right side to get that window to roll down. Like those sort of little
Yeah.
like
A little thing.
quirks.
I felt that way with the '06 Civic.
Yeah.
There were some rust spots in it, and you're just kind of like, you're driving customers around or whatever,
Yep.
and they don't care, or maybe they do. I don't care if they care, but you care. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, should I be doing something
I
different?
think they just hate when my car leaks oil all over the private jet's hangar. They're like, hey, can you park your car outside the hangar when we fly?
Could you walk here?
Can you walk here? We don't want that parked inside.
Take the bus, something.
We have to clean up a
Something.
big oil spot every time you leave.
Mike, I think one of the things in 2022 I want to do is more conversations out of the Discord group, because I think there's every once in a while something blows up in Discord. Today I think it was just today, you guys were spending a little time about picture storage, and that kind of came up. Did you guys decide anything, like as far as a picture manager? Did you guys figure anything out?
I think what we figured out is that there are a lot of options to consider. I think was kind of the general consensus. I did not expect this to spark a big conversation. I'm really glad it did. By the way, guys, one thing we're considering doing is, and I've seen some other podcasts do this. You guys let us know if it's something you'd be interested in. As part of a post show, not recorded or anything, but what we would do is, after Jim and I are done here with the live show, we probably wouldn't do a post show whenever we did this. We would just kind of in the show, maybe do a few minutes. We would cut the stream, go offline, but then we would jump into an audio channel over on Discord, and any and all of you would be, and we just kind of hang out and chat about whatever. It can be stuff we talked about in the show. It can be just chatting around. And I've seen this work pretty well in other podcasts. So let us know if you guys would want to just jump in and chat audio wise.
Let's just make a decision. So let's say last Thursday of every month. So the last Thursday in January, we'll kick this thing off.
Yeah.
And we'll just say that's Discord night. And so the post show, what would normally be the post show, will be us moving over to Discord, opening up an audio channel, and just having a chat on a Thursday night. So let's plan on that. Last Thursday of every. Let's do one and see if it works.
Yeah.
So last Thursday in January, we'll put that. You talked to me about that, and I remember saying yes, and then I didn't do anything about it. So let's schedule that last Thursday in January. That way, folks listening to the podcast version of it may decide. TheAverageGuy.tv/Discord if you want to join us out there for that. But Mike, keep going. What'd you guys figure out?
Yeah, and so what really is, there are so many options when it comes to managing all your photos. And when you think about it, if you're kind of like me, the majority, 90% of my photos are in iCloud for me, or for people who are on Android, probably in Google Photos, right? Because it's just, you're taking it all on your phone and then it gets back up to your library. And if you have a Mac, even better, because then you can open up your Mac and open up photos and they're all there as well. So there's kind of your syncing. And for probably the majority, that's good enough, right? Like all my photos, you're backed up, quote unquote, to the cloud. They're on your phone. They're accessible in multiple places. But for a lot of us, though, we've acquired photos over the years from a bunch of different sources. A lot of us had digital cameras back in the day, and so we've got folders full of those. We get, for Hannah and I, right, we have our wedding album of all the digital. We got a digital wedding album. And so we have all those photos, and I've been keeping all those on the server, right? Because they're on the server, and then I backed it up to Backblaze, and they're secure, but they never get looked at. It kind of reminded me of kind of like that box of photos that's buried in, my parents' basement, that it's awesome that they have them, but they're so buried, you never use them. You don't actually look at them and enjoy them. And so what I was really looking for was, okay, like what's a good way to organize not just my photos, but Hannah's too? Because she's always the question always comes up. Her mom is big into photography. She's making a photo album. She's like, hey, she'll ask me like, what, do you have the photos of the kids from that birthday? I'm like, oh, I don't know if I have them on mine, if they're on yours. Let me check the server. So I just needed one way to consolidate. And when we were talking in Discord, there are a bunch of different options out there that people are using. And so we obviously there's the Photos app on Mac that's linked to iCloud. There's Casa, right? Is it called Casa or something Casa?
Picasa?
Yeah, there's Picasa. And then really the ones I was focused on though was a self-hosted option that you could like run in like a Docker container. So for me, the first one that I found was Photo Prism, and that's the one I'm going to talk about here in a second. So that's the one I threw out in Discord. I said, hey, have we talked about Photo Prism? I can't remember. Gavin Campbell actually was saying that there's actually a few of these open source options out there that he's been following closely to kind of see which one, maybe wins or which one has the better feature set. So there are going to be different options. And so I'm just going to talk about one that I am testing out right now called Photo Prism. But in the future, I think this is a good conversation for all of us to kind of keep going, because there doesn't seem to be a winner for this, for consolidating all the photos and having them in a nice place. So, but real quick, let's talk about Photo Prism, because there's some pros and cons to using it, and I want to tell you kind of how I have it set up. So if you go to photoprism.app, I think that is the website. 1 second here. Photoprism.app is their website. And you can go there and you can kind of read through the docs. You can see how you could install it. I installed it on Unraid as a Docker. So it's part of the community applications. So if you do have Unraid and you have the community applications plugin, just search Photo Prism and you can get it installed. What Photo Prism does is essentially it is a way to consolidate and organize photos, all of your photos from anywhere. Now, there are a few quirks that if you're kind of new to this that, kind of surprised me. They don't have a published yet an out of beta iOS app. So when you're thinking about uploading photos from your phone, they actually have a partnership with an app called PhotoSync, which actually worked flawlessly. It was a great app. But so you're not going to be able to go into the App Store and search for Photo Prism. And this is going to be largely web-based. So I actually haven't accessed it from my phone very often. I've always been on a desktop so far, just because I've been getting it all set up. So I can't really comment yet on how good the interface is if you're viewing it from a mobile phone. But just know it's not going to be as seamless yet, because it's still in development, as your Google Photos or anything, or as OneDrive, where all your photos are just going to automatically upload. I will say, the PhotoSync app that they're partnering with does have those abilities to upload your photos to your Photo Prism server at certain times, or when you get to certain areas, things like that. Actually, Jim, this is perfect. I didn't know they had a demo on their site. This saves me from having to bring out mine. This is great that you're looking at this.
I can't guarantee all the pictures are going to be safe for work.
Well, I'm sure they are if they're on their website. But so what I really liked about Photo Prism, number one, is it's self-hosted. So like I said, I fired this up in Unraid, and in Unraid, I just created a new share. So it's going to store all your new originals. So you're essentially going to be copying photos to the destination wherever you tell Photo Prism to store your items. And then from there, it's going to index them, create all the thumbnails, et cetera, everything you would expect from kind of a photo organizer. The thing I love about this, though, is the multiple ways that you can get photos in. So, for example, for all of my iPhoto library, I just installed the PhotoSync app on my phone, and I set it to not go to sleep, and I let it run through for about 2 hours, and it uploaded all 15,000 photos from my photo library. And the PhotoSync app is actually really nice, because how on the iPhone, most of your photos are actually in the cloud. They're not local to your phone. It's smart enough to it downloads it from iCloud, uploads it, and then it deletes it. It doesn't keep it on your phone. So it's not going to all of a sudden fill your phone up with a bunch of storage. That's been an issue actually with other apps in the past. And then it also has an import feature. So you can actually set an import folder to watch. So on my Unraid box, I actually already had a folder for photos, and it had all of our wedding photos, the miscellaneous uploads that Hannah and I have just stored on the server. So I actually just pointed Photo Prism there and said, hey, can you import all these? And it did that as well. What Jim is looking at right now is actually a really cool feature, which is the face recognition. And so the way this works is after you upload all your photos, it indexes everything. There's two tabs on this on the photo recognition tab of Photo Prism. So when you click on the facial recognition, there's two tabs. There's one called recognized, and at the beginning that'll be empty. There'll be nothing there. And then on the right side, there's one called new, and it's saying, "Hey, I found all these faces. Can you tell me who they are?" And so you go in there. That's kind of a scary photo they use as a template, but you go in there and you say, okay, that's Hannah, that's my son Emmett, that's me, et cetera, et cetera. And it then just knows by the face that that's who that is. And then so going forward from that, once you've tagged all the people you ever want to tag, it took me about 10 minutes just going through saying, yep, this is this person, this is this person. And it's pulling these faces and only pulls unique faces. So it's not like you're going through and tagging individual photos. It's just saying, hey, who is this face? Because I see this face all throughout your photos. This now becomes an organizational tool you can filter from. So you can either go to your facial recognition and say, hey, show me all the pictures of Hannah, and click on their face. Show me all the pictures of, my son, whatever I want. Or to get even more powerful, you can actually start to add this into your filters when you're searching through all your photos. Because for me and my wife, really what we loved about Photo Prism was all of a sudden we had all of our photos between the two of us in one interface that we could look through, and we could start having a lot of fun with being like, oh man, like my grandma Rita, like I wonder how many, like I wonder what photos we have. It says we have 1,020 photos of grandma. Like I didn't think we had that many. You can add that as a filter. Then you can filter by year, et cetera, by place. And so you can start to get really granular with that facial recognition and kind of using it in search, which is really cool. And Jim, if you want to actually pull that back up, there was one more kind of feature that I think was actually really, really cool with Photo Prism, and that is the map. So Photo Prism actually, so on the left side, if you click on, the location. So what this does is it brings up a map. For those of you who are seeing visually, watching the video, you can see, but I'll try to explain it. But on the interface, it pops up with a map of the world. And all of a sudden, you start seeing little circles with numbers in them on different parts of the map. So most of our photos nowadays are geotagged with where they were taken. And so you can start to click around on the map and click into these little bundles of photos of where all your photos were taken. And my wife and I were having a blast scrolling around. We kind of forgot about certain trips we've taken, certain things we've done. There was actually one in Atlanta. And we're like, we haven't been to Atlanta. We clicked in. It was the layover when we got delayed on our honeymoon. We found some fun photos that we were taking while we were drinking some wine on our layover for our honeymoon. Just, again, making your photos useful and fun to look through again was kind of a big selling point. I mean, it's free software. It didn't take any selling, which is kind of a cool feature of this. So as we were clicking around, we got to kind of reminisce on some of our vacations because you can do it by location. And that mapping and the way that they overlay the photos on the map, Jim's kind of scrolling around and looking at it now. I just thought was really intuitive and something that, for free software, I thought was really, really impressive on how it organized it. And it's super snappy. Like this is not, and we're on a demo site now, so I don't know how it feels. But when I'm using mine, it is very quick, very responsive, and then it actually auto categorizes things too. So Jim, if you click up one down from the map, it looks like a little price tag. So these are all of the quote unquote, I don't know what they call them here. They call them something categories or tags. And so it'll categorize like, hey, you can do sunglasses. So if I type in sunglasses in my search, shows all the photos of us wearing sunglasses, et cetera, et cetera. And so it shows all the different, it just auto categorizes for you. So you can do, I don't know, the water or mountains or, whatever is big in your photos. And it tries to do some of that auto AI stuff. But just overall, I thought it was a pretty cool offering.
That's a Nicolas Cage tag. I don't know why Nick Cage is all over this demo site, but he
must be a big Nick Cage fan.
He is all over this site. So if you head out there and you go through the demo, I think if you go back to the facial recognition, do they have him identified? There he is. There he is. He's got more pictures than just this one. I saw a few of them out there. So somebody needs to go out and categorize it. Mike, I use both So I use the Google Photo, or I mean the Apple Photo app on my phone, and I sync those. I also sync those to the Google Photos, and I think I pay a buck 99 for the space for that. And I actually find the Google to still be a good photo app. Like
Yeah.
it just made. Hold on, let's get rid of Nick Cage here. I don't know why he's still up there. Um, it just made it just made a video for me, like the end of the year. It was like, "Hey, here's an end of the year video." Every other picture was cigars. I was like, "Okay, I take way too many pictures of cigars." That's what I realized, in that, because I appreciate this conversation, but I realized I've kind of stopped taking pictures.
Oh,
Like
really?
I just don't, yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
not, I'm not, I mean, I think the real last set of pictures I took when I was in London in December of 2019. I took a bunch of photos there because that's what you do,
Yeah, and your kids are
you know.
grown. You know what I mean? So you're
Yeah,
not like, I
well,
think a lot of that.
we got grandkids.
That's true.
Here's the deal. Like my kids take so many pictures, and I see them on Facebook, or we have a private Snapchat. They just send us pictures all the time on Snapchat. And then I see the best ones on Facebook. I'm sure they're landing on Instagram. I'm just not there to see them. So I think I've got kind of lulled into this sense of I know what's going on because I don't have to take the pictures. Somebody else is taking them and I just get to view them, as opposed to me being the one that has to do it. So I've gotten
Yeah.
super lazy about taking pictures,
Right.
you
And
know.
and that could be the case too. And I think, for me, I'll probably keep a mixture of all of these because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love the
Yeah.
videos that because number one, Photos actually does that too. Not as well. The native Photos app for iOS, they'll
It's
send me little
terrible.
videos every once
No,
in a
it's
while.
awful. It doesn't do it very well. I mean, it doesn't do it enough and it's not intuitive enough,
Yeah. Very
that
yes.
kind of thing.
Both are true.
Google's got this thing nailed. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they somehow figure out spooky. They figure out how to stitch these pictures together. You're crying at the end. You're like, this is a major motion picture. You're
Right.
like, holy cow. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And so for me, I'll probably keep Google Photos too. I have
Yeah.
all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This one though was great for consolidating all the
Yep.
families into one. That
Yes.
was a
Yes.
now the thing it's missing is a native app on the iOS. It's also missing multi-user support. So you can do multiple installs of this, like you could run two different Dockers. But as far as Photo Prism is concerned, it's one account, which at first was kind of bumming me out. But then at the same time, like, no, the whole point of this, like if I wanted multiple users in my case, I would just we already have two users on Google and two users on iCloud. We would just access those. So
Yeah.
this is a good just consolidation. And
Yeah.
it might be something that, now I fired it up and we never really use it again. And it's just collecting photos over time. But I did kind of walk Hannah through it today. I was kind of showing her how to use it. And we were having some fun looking back at the memories and things
Yep.
like that. So I don't know. It's definitely a good option. I think Gavin put it pretty well that it's probably something good to monitor this and some of the other self-hosted solutions. I mean, if you're someone who needs photo management, and this might be a good solution. And that's where I was too, because our photos were kind of scattered everywhere. And if they weren't taken on our phone, they weren't ending up in iPhoto or
Yep. Yep.
I can still call it iPhoto in
Yep.
Photos or Google Photos, right? Because that's the only way my auto upload to those is the only way photos ever get there. So this was one way that they all kind of now get back home. And I know Joe mentioned one of the things that keeps him on Android is the syncing to his Unraid share over Wi-Fi.
Yep.
And I think Alex brought up a good point too. The Photo Sync iOS app is pretty awesome. It does let you pretty much send your photos, sync them anywhere,
Yep.
multiple
Yep.
different
Yep. It
destinations,
does.
SMB shares. So you
Yep.
could just go to a share on Unraid if you want. The other cool part about that too is you can then set that share to be monitored by Photo Prism, right? And then Photo Prism could just be, you could import from that folder. So that could be another way, Joe, you could easily just now install Photo Prism and have it slurp all that in. And then you would be syncing still over to your Unraid. And then Photo Prism could be a photo management then over at the end.
OneDrive is out there as well. When they've got an app that always seems like it goes through phases where it gets worked on and then nothing for a long time, and then all of a sudden they're like, okay, we're doing a new thing with photos, and so you get, you kind of get it. Yeah, I just am not. I think Sarah's agreeing with me. I just kind of spoiled with I just don't take as many photos as I should, and when I do, they're cigars. So I need to maybe in 2022 I'll do more photos.
I don't think you need to. Right? I mean, if your kids are taking them for you,
listen, my kids are great at taking pictures. So they're doing it. They're showing up on Facebook. It's exactly the way I want it. Like, it's like, I want to see a picture and go, oh, and then I don't want to see it ever again. I want to track it. I don't want to, like, I don't want to have to worry about backing it up or storing it. Oh, Sarah just said she's agreeing. Darn it. With Brian. So yeah, I don't want to mess with it. And listen, I know, you're like, yeah, but what about a legacy and things that you leave? Well, listen, that box of photos that you said got buried is also in an inch of water because somebody spilled on it or the basement flooded and you didn't know they were there or whatever. So by the time you get to them, they're ruined anyways. And so you get like, I think sometimes we have to think we've got to keep it all. And I'm kind of like, no, enjoy the moment. Like, enjoy the moment you're in. Put that in here. Because listen, I've seen this, when my dad passed away 8 years ago. And that stuff gets forgotten pretty fast. And even if you had copies of it and you're like, okay, here's the password, when I die, I'm going to give you the password to my Google Photos. Yeah, apparently I don't care about his pictures as much as he cared about his pictures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you just kind of like, oh, here's another one of Uncle Bob, who I don't know.
Well, I think the key is just having like 3 or 4 really good photos of all your big family members, because that's all that matters to me. Like, because whenever I get printouts, like I do have like in my office at work, one of my great grandfather who worked at UP. I've had that in my office since I worked at UP. Like, and like having just a few good, but I'm not going to go look through boxes and boxes of photos. But I do love having those few good ones. So.
No, it's good. Alex is asking if Photo Prism actually is copying the photos or just monitoring the location and making interactive viewers for the photos.
It is copying the photos. So it does have the ingest folder, or like the import folder they call it, is separate from the storage, and it imports it in. So it imports the original, which I kind of liked to. And you can set it to delete after. You can set it to delete the import folder. So it could be like, if it was an ingest, you can have it delete what it just copied over from where it copied it from, so that way you're saving space if you don't want to duplicate. For me, I kind of like how now it's just kind of a separate system. It pulls it in. Now I have a copy of it in Photo Prism. If I'm editing or deleting over there, it's not really messing with anything. So you could set it up both ways, but it is copying by default.
Brian Hour says his dad passed away at the end of October. Sorry about that, Brian. I found his photo stash. Now I need to burn my eyes out. Oh, hopefully that's okay, Brian. Hopefully that's okay. Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, man, I gotta go through and just clean up that, right? Because it's on auto upload.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's the other thing. Like just the other day I was out, we were out seeing a movie and some friends were like, hey, could you not friends, some acquaintances. So like, would you take a picture of us? Sure. Give me your phone. And I literally just start taking pictures the second they start smiling. And then I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And but I'm
I do the same thing.
50 pictures. Now this time I didn't, but normally I turn the camera around and I take a selfie that I give to him. But all of a sudden you end like, when I was taking a selfie with my granddaughter, and I took like 40 of them, because I was trying to find the right one. Well, then I took the right one. That's my Facebook profile. It's out there right now. I adore that picture. I have 39 other pictures I don't care about anymore, but they're being stored somewhere, and so, and then you're like, okay, it's a lot easier to just take the pictures than to delete them. Google does do some things too, where they're like, hey, like, do you really need this receipt?
I love that feature of Google. That needs to be everywhere, because I use that all the time. Like, no, I don't need like the one time I took a picture and I scanned it. I've already saved it. I've already used it. Yes, that feature is absolutely amazing.
Alex says for relative photos, it'd make it easier to identify older family members. That's true with facial recognition. And I don't know about you, but do your boys get mistagged as you sometimes.
No, and they don't even
Oh,
get mistagged as each other. Even
well,
as
that's
babies.
okay.
It's weird.
Yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
good because Tim, my son Tim, and I must look identical because it's always
Mistagging.
confusing us
Okay.
on those. Sarah says I always delete right away the ones that I don't want. Man, good for you. I don't.
I don't either. Mine's
I
full
just
of
don't.
crud.
Gavin says I like the iOS and Google Photos features where it auto makes a collage for you. I've gotten those from both of them this year. Again, that's where all the cigar pictures came from. Reminds me of photos I've enjoyed watching them. I hope the self-hosted version does this eventually.
I know Google did one the other day. It was like they grow up so fast, and it was a video of like collage of like Emmett all the way from when he was a baby. And I'm like, that facial recognition is insane.
Oh, dude,
and it was
that's
him
spooky.
throughout the next 5 years. I'm like choking up at work. I'm like, oh geez, this is like, how did it know? Like it just like, that Google is good at those.
They're
sort of
good at
things.
that. They're
Yeah.
good. Listen, stick to your core competencies, and that's like Google is good at that. They're good at that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just tough to beat. For a while, I was taking photos, saving them to OneDrive, and then saving them to Google, and then saving them to my Dropo. So I had a local copy, and I was never using them. Like, it's not like I was taking photos that I was using for the blog or whatever. So I didn't need all those. Where to be honest with you, I don't know where half my photos are anymore. I'm kind of like, and I don't know if I care. I guess I've been doing it long enough in Google. Google does a nice job of also saying, hey, 11 years ago today, like,
Yes.
hey, 9 years ago today, you can go back and see all those. And those are kind of fun to look at. So, yeah, well, it's a good conversation. And you said this in the beginning. It created a lot more conversation than I thought it would when you guys first started talking about it on Discord. And then all of a sudden there was a gigantic conversation around it. So if you haven't joined us on Discord yet, head out to Sarah. You could even do this too. You too could join us on Discord. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Discord and jump in there. And it's great group, great conversation. I appreciate that. Is one group I never have to police. I mean, it just is.
Great
you guys
group
are
of-
super awesome. And
Yeah.
appreciate you guys out there doing it. The deal section is a good one to be in because it gets spot on with what I'm looking for. It's probably cost me way too much money in the past, but if you're not signed up for it, head out there and get it done. Join us in Discord as well. Mike, anything else we should chat about as we think about wrapping up? Well, let me say this before we do it. Thank you, Mike, for I think this ends 5 or 6 years, something like that, whatever that is. And I was thinking the other day, I was like, I didn't get you a Christmas gift. Maybe it's good I didn't because you were sick. And so I'm gonna try and pick you up a bottle of Jeff and bring it by now that you're feeling better. But thanks for hanging out with me on Thursdays. It's always enjoyable to do this. I'm looking forward to 2022. I kind of keep imagining at some point you're going to be like, the family's kind of overrun me, but not so much. So thanks for
not yet
all the years of podcasting.
No, but thanks for letting me stick around. I always love our Thursday conversations, and it keeps me on my toes with just staying up with tech. And number one, this community is just so much fun to be a part of. Like I love doing the show, and then I really love hanging out with you guys on Discord and on Twitter and things like that. So no, just a fantastic community. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I think I'll say thanks to our Patreon subscribers who've been just rock solid in your support for that. That kind of helps in doing what we do here, what I do here. And so I appreciate for those of you who support on Patreon. If you want to do that, if in 2022, there we go. If you want to join that Patreon team, you can do that. Head out to theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. And we got some, I think I just have a $5 plan. I do have some coins. I do have some, there's a sample right behind my head there, up over on this side. It's not that big. It's a little smaller than that. But if you do the $5 pledge, I'll send that coin out to you and a lot of appreciation. Thanks for doing that. And for the rest of you listeners, we'd love to hear from you in 2022. So drop us a note, jim@theaverageguy.tv if you want to get those to me. You can follow Mike at Wieger Tech on Twitter. I am at Jay Collison if you want to do it that way. We're always in the Discord group. That's actually probably the best way to do it. Again, theaverageguy.tv/Discord. Big thanks. Someone still joined Coinbase. And so if you want to do that, if you want to join us in this crypto revolution, that sounds so cheesy. That's the dumbest thing I've ever said. If you want to buy and sell cryptocurrency, which is what it boils down to, markets are down a little bit, but that's okay. Maybe now is the time to jump in. TheAverageGuy.tv/Coinbase, first $100 trade, you get 10, I get 10. It's not a bad way to do it. And somebody else jumped in this week. Mike, every time I think those are done, like I'm like, nobody else is going to do it. Somebody does.
Someone signs. Yeah.
Just like HelloFresh. Like we listen, I can't get it would make my heart sad if we had to give up HelloFresh. We've thought about it like, hey, we could probably buy these ingredients ourselves. We got enough recipes. I've learned a ton. I just love getting that box. 2 meals a week are taken care of and a couple lunches. I get to cook, dinner with Sammy, and we enjoy bourbon when we're. How great is that? Like, we start as we're preparing. I get 2 whiskey glasses, and then we sip whiskey and
it's the experience more than just the food.
It's pretty great. Pretty great. But if you want to join us with HelloFresh, I get you a bunch of free stuff. So theaverageguy.tv/HelloFresh. All right, enough pimping. We'll do a little bit of a post show for those that are listening live. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next week. It's next year.
We'll see you next year.
It's next week. Joke. Aaron Lawrence is joining us, and love to have you join us live. Maybe a New Year's resolution for you would be to come out and join us live Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. We have the best chat room on the internet, and it's a ton of fun. You should do it as well. Make 519 the first one you attend. We'd love to have you. And thanks for coming out. With that, we'll say Happy New Year and good night, everybody.